I first noticed the parrot when I was walking home from work one day. I always pass by this little pet shop on 5th Street called Animal House. It's a cramped little store filled with all kinds of birds, lizards, hamsters, you name it. On this day, I heard a squawk as I was walking by. "Hello, Tom." I paused, wondering who was addressing me. Then I noticed a large blue and yellow macaw perched in a cage near the window, staring at me. No one else was nearby. Did that bird just talk to me? "Hello," I said hesitantly. The parrot tilted its head and squawked, "Nice day today, Tom." A talking parrot wasn't the weirdest thing, but how did it know my name? I checked the store name for any clue that the owners knew me. But no, Animal House was completely unfamiliar. Uneasy, I hurried home. Probably just a coincidence, I figured. Or maybe the parrot was trained to make small talk with people. Nothing sinister. Over the next few days, though, I couldn't get the strange encounter out of my head. I changed my route to work to avoid the shop. But the next Monday, I ended up needing to take 5th Street again. As I approached Animal House, my pulse quickened. I told myself to keep walking, not to look. But just as I was passing the front window, I heard it again. "Tom, did you have a nice weekend?" I froze. Slowly, I turned toward the window. The macaw was there, staring right at me. No question now. This bird somehow knew who I was. I decided I had to figure this out. I went into the shop where a little old man greeted me. "Can I help you?" "That macaw in the window, does he talk to people passing by often?" I asked. The man chuckled. "Oh yes, Joey loves socializing with folks. His talent is incredible, isn't it?" I nodded hesitantly. "How does he know so much?" The owner shrugged. "Animal intuition, I suppose. Joey's a special one." I left the shop uneasy. The rational part of me said Joey must just be observant, picking up clues about passers-by. But my gut said something weirder was going on. Over the next couple of weeks, I found myself almost obsessively walking by the shop whenever I could, listening for Joey's remarks. They were always innocuous, but right on target. He asked how my big work presentation went, commented about the neighbor's dog barking the night before, and hoped I enjoyed the pizza I got for dinner. It all seemed harmless, but eerie in how spot-on his details were. I started avoiding eye contact, speeding up when I passed Animal House. Then one day, Joey said something that stopped me cold. "How's your mother doing, Tom? Her health has seemed bad lately." A chill ran down my spine. My mother lived alone 2 hours away. There's no way this bird could know she's been ill, right? I swung open the shop door and marched straight to Joey's cage. "How do you know about my mother?" I demanded. Joey just blinked at me silently. The owner rushed over. "Is there a problem, sir? This parrot seems to know personal details about me. I want to know how that's possible." "Like I said before, Joey is very intuitive and observant," the owner said calmly. "I'm sure if he says anything that resonates, it's just coincidence." I left feeling disturbed and freaked out. But the next day when I passed and Joey called, "Let me know how your mother's doctor appointment goes." Out the window, I forced myself to keep walking. Over the next few weeks, Joey's comments got progressively more personal and unsettling. He mentioned a childhood field trip I completely forgot about. He described recurring nightmares I've had for years. He even teased me about the date I went on down to tiny details. I found myself detouring over a block to avoid the pet shop. But one day as I was heading out, Joey screeched loudly, forcing me to look over. "Tom, long time no see. Stay safe out there." That did it. Heart pounding, I marched into the shop and demanded to speak to the owner. An employee said he wasn't in that day. I demanded they find Joey's paperwork, convinced something sinister must be going on. But they refused. Frustrated, I left and went home. But then I spotted a flyer that gave me an idea. Animal House was looking for part-time weekend help. If I worked there, I could get to the bottom of this creepy parrot. I called the number on the flyer and easily got the job. My first shift that Saturday was excruciating. Joey kept up his bizarrely personal remarks all day. Customers thought it was a hoot, but I felt sick. Who was feeding this bird confidential info about my life? When the owner went to lunch, I hurried to the office and rifled through papers and files. Buried in a drawer, I found papers showing Joey had been donated to the shop a year ago after his previous owner died. So, Joey hadn't been here long. But there were no clues in the office about how the shop was getting info about me or other customers. Discouraged, I kept searching for any scrap I could find. Finally, tucked into the back of the drawer, I found an old Polaroid picture. It showed Joey perched in this very shop, next to a dark-haired woman smiling. On the back it was dated 5 years ago, with the name Janice written on it. Strange. Just then, I heard the shop door open as the owner returned. I shoved the picture into my pocket just as he appeared in the doorway. "Everything okay back here?" he asked suspiciously. "Oh yes, just looking for paperwork about the hamsters," I stammered. The owner's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing. I finished my shift rattled and unable to explain the mysterious picture. After agonizing all night, I finally fell into a troubled sleep. I dreamed I was walking down an endless hallway lined with bird cages, all inhabited by squawking macaws. In the distance, I could hear Joey calling my name over the cacophony. I tried to keep walking, but the hallway rotated, the floor tilting wildly until the cages were stacked above me, birds swooping at my head. I collapsed, yelling for help as they swarmed me. I woke with a gasp, pillow soaked with sweat. Heart pounding, I looked at the time. 2:17 a.m. What a horrific nightmare. Troubled, I eventually fell back asleep. The next morning, I was reticent to walk past the pet shop to the donut place next door where I often got coffee. But I told myself to get a grip. Just one quick walk by and it would be over. But as Animal House came into view, I stopped short. The store was dark, with a closed sign hanging in the window. That's odd for a Sunday, I thought. As I drew closer, I noticed dirt scattered all over the sidewalk. And then I saw it. The front display window was completely smashed, shards of glass covering the ground. I stepped inside cautiously. The store was destroyed, cages knocked over, animals running loose, supplies and papers strewn everywhere. What the hell had happened? That's when I spotted Joey's cage, or what was left of it. The macaw himself was gone without a trace, leaving just a mangled mess of metal and birdseed littering the floor. I wandered through the chaos in shock. Had someone robbed the place and taken Joey? I pulled out my phone to call the owner, when I spotted something that stopped me cold. Behind the empty cash register, lying in a pool of blood, was a woman's body. I gasped involuntarily. Hands shaking, I called the police, reporting what I'd found. Within minutes, police cruisers and an ambulance swarmed the street. As cops surveyed the scene, I overheard them confirm the victim was Janice, the shop's 30-year-old assistant manager. She had suffered massive blunt force trauma to the head. There was no sign of the owner anywhere. While waiting to give my statement, I asked an officer if they had any leads on who might have done this. He checked his notes. We responded to an emergency call placed earlier this morning by a man reporting a break-in and possible robbery. He didn't identify himself, but it sounded like the owner. After the police finally let me go, I went straight home and collapsed into bed exhausted. This was too much. As I lay there, I remembered the photo I'd pocketed on my shift. I pulled it out and studied it again. Janice and Joey together years ago. What did it mean? Had Janice not actually died 5 years ago as the date implied? And where was Joey now? Despite my unease around the bird, I had to admit I was worried about him. As I puzzled over the bizarre events, I must have dozed off. I was jolted awake a short time later by a loud thump outside my bedroom window. I sat bolt upright, pulse racing. Had someone thrown something? Warily, I crept over to the window and pulled up the blinds. My blood ran cold. Perched on the tree branch right outside was Joey, staring at me silently with beady eyes. I staggered back, hyperventilating. What was happening? How did he find me? Another thump made me whip around. Joey was now hopping up and down on my dresser, knocking items everywhere. I rushed over to shoo him away, but he evaded me, flying around the room and squawking loudly. Terrified, I ran out and shut the door. Heart pounding, I grabbed my phone to call the cops, but a blood-curdling screech from inside made me pause. I opened the door cautiously. Joey was perched on my bedpost, preening his feathers calmly as if nothing was wrong. "What do you want from me?" I yelled shakily. The parrot stared back. Then he slowly opened his beak and spoke in a chillingly human voice. "Find the wardrobe." I jolted violently, nearly dropping the phone. Joey spoke again. "Find it inside the wardrobe, Tom." Then with a final screech, he launched himself at the window. I rushed over just in time to see the macaw flapping away into the night. Shaking uncontrollably, I sat on the bed and tried to calm down. Had I imagined Joey speaking? Maybe I was losing my mind from lack of sleep. As I ran the night's events over in my head, I kept coming back to one thing: the wardrobe. I didn't have a wardrobe, just a closet. What was inside that Joey wanted me to find? Racked with curiosity and dread, I knew there was only one way to find out. I had to go back to Animal House. The next evening after work, I stood outside the pet shop watching cops mill about the crime scene. Trying to look casual, I snuck around back and found the back door propped open. Slipping inside quietly, I could see forensics people dusting for prints and bagging evidence. I ducked behind shelves, creeping through aisles filled with stray feathers and dirt. In the owner's office, I spotted a large wooden wardrobe used to store pet supplies. Heart pounding, I opened it slowly. Nothing unusual jumped out, just ledgers, food bags. I dug through everything when my fingers brushed paper in the very back corner. Clutching it, I shut the wardrobe and quickly slipped back outside unnoticed. Only when I was a block away did I dare examine my findings under a streetlight. It was a faded typewritten report about Joey from 5 years ago, signed by Dr. Anton Weber. My hands shook as I read the report. It chronicled an experiment training Joey to read and vocalize people's private thoughts telepathically. But the project went horribly wrong, with Joey exhibiting violent behavior. The report recommended terminating the macaw before he could harm anyone. The last line sent a chill down my spine. Joey appears to have fixated on and formed an alarming attachment to the graduate student working closely with him, Janice L. My mind was reeling. Was this real? Could Joey actually read minds? Is that how he seemed to know private details about customers? And if this experiment caused him to become dangerous, had Joey been involved in Janice's murder? I stared into the darkness around me, feeling eyes on me. I could sense Joey's strange presence out there somewhere, watching me. What did he want next? I knew I had learned too much. Folding up the report, I hurried off down the shadowy street, pulse racing. Glancing behind me, I thought I spotted a flash of blue feathers in the night. I paused under the next streetlight, trying to collect myself. But that's when I noticed what was scrawled across the post in what looked like dried blood. "Find the recording, Tom." Gasping in fear, I broke into a run. I didn't stop until I reached my apartment, where I collapsed, trembling. This had gone too far. I needed help. I picked up my phone to call the police to tell them everything. But before I could, my eyes landed on something that made the phone slip from my hand. There, perched casually on my windowsill, staring right at me with cold black eyes, was Joey. Somewhere out there, the twisted experiment still continues, and the sinister Parrot watches and waits. No one who hears his voice lives to tell the tale, or perhaps I'm next. So please, if you value your life, avoid the pet store on 5th Street. Avoid the macaw named Joey.